Welcome back into the Bangtan universe wormhole. I'm your host Karen, and I'm sorry that I'm so late with this video, but we're going to get right into it, and at the very end I will explain why I'm so late, and I have an important announcement, so please stay tuned till the end. Today I'm here to talk about how swim sets up the next era of the BU, but the MV has at least 3 levels of meaning, so I need to say a few words about the first 2 levels before moving on to the one we're really interested in. At the top, most obvious level, swim is about the relationship between BTS and ARMY. We love them, and we know they love us, but almost none of us will ever get to meet them in person because they're superstars. So they show us their love through special songs that only ARMY understand, and they make videos like Swim. The most important message of the Swim MV, as opposed to the Swim song, is that even though we can't see BTS, they see us and think about us all the time. That's why the woman in the MV, who represents ARMY, can't find BTS anywhere, even when they're standing right in front of her. By the way, that actress's name is Lily Reinhardt, and I'm just going to keep calling her Lily throughout the video. The second level of Swim compares BTS to another group of 7 young Korean men who set sail in the 1800s for the United States. They traveled to Howard University, where all of them were well known for their singing, and 3 of them made the first recorded version of Arirang. An old Washington Post article makes the BTS comparison even stronger. According to that article, on the night of their arrival at Howard, the Korean men attended a social gathering where they, quote, were surrounded by a dozen persuasive damsels who begged them to sing. Now let's move on to the third level of meaning in the Swim MV, the BU level. Here are a couple of screen grabs from threads that explain the members' roles on the ship based on their uniforms. I know nothing about naval officers and their uniforms, but this poster clearly does. And what's more, her comments make perfect sense based on our research. A long time ago, we discovered that BTS didn't use the Western system of 4 elements to describe their characters. Instead, they assigned each character to one of the traditional 5 elements in the Eastern system, or to one of the Taiji elements, yin and yang. The great thing about the Eastern system is that it takes change into account. In fact, that's why the symbol for yin and yang looks like a wheel. It's supposed to roll. Sometimes yin, the hidden side of the world, is in charge of events, and sometimes yang is in charge. Q and I had already figured out which character was assigned to each symbol, and we predicted that even though Seokjin's character, whose symbol is yin, has been the key player in the BU so far, in the next era his character's importance will wane, and Taeyoung's character, whose symbol is yang, will become a key player. We see confirmation of this theory in the members' roles aboard the ship. Taeyoung is the captain, and Seokjin's position is unclear. The Swim MV also aligns with our predictions about Jimin's role in the future BU. He hasn't had much chance to stretch his wings yet, but that's about to change. His symbol in the 5-element system is water, and as you can see, Swim is all about water. There's also a lot of water in the MV for 2.0, although not all of that water is visible. Some of it's found in artwork, some of it's in shapes and colors, and some of it's in areas where water is always found. But I can't cover 2.0 in this video, so instead I'll challenge you to find all the water in that MV and tell us what you found in the comments. Oh, and keep a tab open for 2.0 while you're at it. We're going back to it in just a second. Another character whom we've predicted will be important in the next era is Hoseok. He's been mostly in the background before now, but he's the linchpin of the group, so he's due for a change. And he dressed up like a pirate for the 2022 season's greeting photo shoot. His role is officially Mystic Strategist, but if he isn't an actual pirate, he's at least pirate adjacent. And take a close look at his set. We've already seen Hobie with maps or globes in many photo shoots, and here in this one we see 3 globes. The glass one here is an astrolabe, a device that uses the position of various celestial bodies to help old world sailors keep on course. Hold that in your head. But while we're still on Hobie's photo shoot, let's notice a few other things. Here's a huge ship's wheel that looks like the one Jungkook uses in Swim. Here's a replica ship that looks like the one seen here and here in Swim. And here's a good look at Hobie's bandana. You're probably asking why that's important, and the answer is in the MV for 2.0. Notice Tae's headgear in the penthouse section of that video. He's actually been wearing a lot of bandanas lately, and they might be more than just fashion choices, so keep an eye out. Also keep an eye out for who's wearing gloves and how many and when. We think that hands are important. Now let's dig into the MV itself, starting with a compass that can't find true north. On the top level of meaning, which I mentioned at the start of this video, the compass reminds us that ARMY and BTS are always reaching out to each other, but we can't really touch. But on the BU level, that compass is a symbol for Yoongi. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but you'll find this connection most strongly in the graphic lyrics books. And Yoongi himself holds a compass in this photo shoot from the Proof era. And this is a photo shoot in which the members are wearing colors that relate to the sea and seashores. Finally, you can see a compass front and center in this image from the 2022 season's greetings. Apparently, Yoongi will have an important role in the next era too, and that's backed up by his uniform in swim. According to the thread I showed you, he's second in command of this ship. And now we get our first glimpse of Lily. Well, her feet anyway. But what's so special about them, other than the big, weird globes on her shoes? Well, those globes are what's special. And this model ship explains why. The ship and everything around it are located in the Lisbon Maritime Museum in Portugal. Lily is looking at a replica of the frigate Ulysses, which sailed the Atlantic beginning in 1792. The ship Ulysses was named after the hero of the Trojan War, who spent 10 years sailing around the Mediterranean Sea on a trip that should have taken a couple of weeks. That's what happens when you piss off a god, in this case Poseidon. And in the BU, our 7 heroes have pissed off a different, very powerful supernatural entity. They defeated it in the last era of the BU, but they didn't kill it, so Q and I predict that it will take revenge on our heroes in the next era. We think it will separate them across time, space, and the multiverse, and you can find our reasoning for this in the video linked above. There's just one problem with our theory: the pandemic. It changed or destroyed many of BTS's plans, things much bigger than an ongoing fictional story, and our predictions are based on material that Big Hit gave out before the pandemic. So BTS's schedule changes might have caused changes to the BU plotline, and we have no way of knowing at this point how big or small those changes might be. But finding this image in the thread about BTS's uniforms and swim gives me hope. And as you can see from this screen grab, there's a globe on the table too. That means the ship at least doesn't represent a change to the BU. It was always in play, just like the compass and the telescope. In fact, I think Big Hit might always have intended to use this particular ship, since it was named after a famous lost hero, and we think the heroes of the BU will be lost in the next era. But that's not the only reason for thinking Big Hit always intended to use this ship, the Ulysses. After several years in service, the ship was refitted and given a new name to honor a different mythological figure, the goddess Urania. In my last video, I said that BTS seemed to have abandoned whatever plans they had for Dionysus, but that's fine by us because we never figured out what his role in the BU was going to be anyway. With Urania, on the other hand, the BU connection is clear and natural. She was one of the muses, the 9 goddesses who inspired ancient Greeks in various arts and sciences. And Urania was the goddess of astronomy. She's usually depicted with a sphere that represents the heavens, together with a small rod for pointing out the constellations to travelers, mainly sailors, to help them reach their destinations. Sometimes she's depicted with an astrolabe instead of a sphere, but an astrolabe serves the same purpose, using the constellations to guide sailors to their destinations. And remember, we saw an astrolabe on Hobie's pirate set. Anyway, as you can see, Urania was very important to sailors. That's why even as late as the 1800s, people were still naming ships after her. Another symbol associated with Urania is a crown of stars, and she's usually depicted with 7 stars. How convenient, right? These stars represent the Big Dipper, which was an important celestial landmark for early sailors. And even here, as the Arirang era is just beginning, the Big Dipper is all over the place. It's in the swim video, in drone shows, even on the floor of at least one Arirang pop-up shop. So by now, you can see why Urania is such a natural choice for the BU. Now let's move on and talk about the Easter eggs. Here's a sail with a feather hidden on it. In the HYYH era, they show our heroes' aspirations to fly, even when they're grounded by youth and trauma. In the Wings era, feathers are used together with other images of flying to symbolize our heroes' struggles to attain maturity. If you look closely at RM's office desk, you'll see a walkie-talkie like the one in Signal. and you can get a clearer view of it here in the behind the scenes video. If you've been following our channel long enough, you know BTS references the K-drama Signal a lot, and that makes sense because Signal is about communicating across time. Now think about all the times we've drawn your attention to telescopes, microscopes, and other devices people use to sharpen their sight. Finally, 2 of them are out in the open, here at least. There's another hidden one in RM's office, a magnifying glass on his desk. It's really littered with Easter eggs if you take a hard look. Now check out this red rose. The first time we saw it was in Boy in Love, and we saw it again in Yet to Come. Now here's a sequence that might remind you of Spring Day. Next, here's yet another entry in the long list of shots where a BU character stares sadly into a mirror. We're getting close to the end of the MV now, and if you've been getting Titanic vibes as we go along, that is definitely intentional. But there's no telling whether or not BTS's ship will ever sink in the BU. The director might just be using the lost love vibes of Titanic to enhance the meaning of the swim video. Now we see the globes on Lily's shoes again as she jumps off the ship and back into the real world. It seems like Urania has guided her footsteps throughout this journey, taking her as close to BTS as she could get, enough for them to see her, and for her to sense their presence strongly enough that when she returns, her clothes are dripping wet. But we can't stop where Lily does because there are a few more Easter eggs in the credits. We already saw the Big Dipper on the chart in Namjoon's office, but now we can see it more clearly, and we see that every star in the Big Dipper is labeled with the number 7. We also get a better look at the ship's blueprint on Namjoon's desk, and we find some of the lyrics from Swim written across the hull. And speaking of lyrics, have you ever really thought about the line, "This is where it all begins"? Swim is where the next era of the BU begins. So that wraps up my thoughts on Swim, and now it's time for the big announcement that I told you I would have at the end of the video. Unfortunately, I am going to have to stop making videos for the Bangtan universe, and I understand now why so many of the first generation Bangtan universe reactors and theorists had to stop making them. It's just exhausting, and I'm doing this all on my own with low-tech equipment, low-tech apps, and it's just, I'm worn out. That's all I can say. But I will continue to read all your comments that you make on any of my videos. I will continue to answer any questions that you have. I will hope you will continue to watch the videos that you haven't seen yet, because the channel is so full of content now, and we're already beginning to see our theories prove themselves to be correct. So we're very excited about what's coming in the future. It's just that I won't be able to make videos about it. Maybe someday I will start making shorts. I don't know, I can't promise that. I may start a blog at some point. Again, I don't know, I can't promise anything at this point. Right now, my main concern is just to get my head together, get a little bit more rest. And just for the record, I have knee replacement surgery coming up later this week. I'm very excited about that, actually, because it means I'll be able to stand up and jump around at the BTS concert in September. If you're going to the SoFi show on Sunday, look out for me. I'll be the hobbity-looking gal in the Suga t-shirt. Apo Bangpo to you all, and please keep writing those comments. I'd love to see them, and again, I will answer. Bye-bye.